Figures don't lie, but liars, they figure. This is Epic Thought.
Each day that you're still breathing, you use those breaths to pray positive prayers for other people in these halls and for your family in your home. And that is this deal. Deal?
Yes.
This place is made out of brick, not hope.
What's the matter with you? What happened to make you hurt so bad?
You can't save me, Chaplain. Just like you couldn't save Sean. Your job is what I tell you it is.
Listen, we need you being careful.
It's okay. I got my father's hand.
I'm at peace. Are you?
Yo, that video is the trailer to the show The Efficient. We have partnered up, Heritage Park has partnered up with GBI. The Efficient is going to be a project that we have partnered up with GBI for this project. And we are currently in development to create more episodes. So right now we're in the middle of starting a campaign. Actually, the campaign starts the day after Christmas, December 26th. But we're going to be starting to show trailers, and we'll have trailers with him sharing a little bit more about the project. But there's right now 5 episodes. They'll be on HPTV starting January 1. And actually, yeah, January 1. You'll be able to watch the first episode, I think January 2, January 2nd. They're going to be available here on HPTV. And you have an opportunity to be part of something great and something big. So make sure you click that link that's below us in the description, so you can be part of this massive, critical project. There's so much I can say about that, but we want you to be part of it. We're giving opportunities for be a part of it. So with that being said, excuse me. Welcome one, welcome all to Epic Thoughts. I'm your host, Roman. Thanks for coming on today, logging on. I want to say, man, the last couple of weeks of Epic Thoughts, you guys have really the numbers have been really exciting. Normally it's just like a couple of views here, a couple of views there. And, of course, when Carla was on, you guys love Carla. We got to get Carla on so we get some viewership back. But the last couple of weeks have been like the same as if Carla and Ivy was in the building, which is a little bit higher, a lot higher, actually. So especially last week, you guys came out last week to support my homie, Colin Bird, who was on the show with me. But shout out to everyone. Shout out to all the followers. Shout out to everyone who's watching us on HPTV. And shout out to Lightcast Media, which is another company that have called and reached out to me and want to do some things with Heritage Park in the future. So I thought that was pretty cool too. So shout out to all those people out there making noise in the world. So I want to share some things about being authentic, being yourself, right? I think it's important in this day and age that you be real. And some people, if you're like me in any sense of the way, you have a hard time being authentic because you're just very genuine, and there's nothing to kind of like, there's nothing to be like, hey, I'm the greatest, this guy, I'm the greatest runner, I'm the greatest artist, I'm the greatest whatever, I'm the smartest person in the room. If you're truly a genuine person like me, you probably suffer from a sense of like imposter syndrome. Like you're just not, I do this all the time. I always look at everybody in the room, and it's weird because it's like I go into a room with people and who are really active in that room. And I immediately go, I don't deserve to be in this room. I'm not as smart as the people in this room. But at the same time, you take me out of the room and ask me what I think of myself. I think very highly of myself. Like I'd be like, yo, I got this. I'm this, I'm that. But there's just times, I don't know if you've ever felt this way. There's just times where you just felt like, it's not about me right now. I'm not that great. I'm not that smart. I'm not as talented as people make me out to be. Well, that's me in a nutshell. And I want to share, and because of that, it's almost like handicaps. Like I handicap myself to not be the unapologetic, unadulterated version of myself, because I don't know what it is. And it's some mental health things that I'm really working out, going through and stuff like that. But the world wants an authentic version of you. They want an authentic version of me. And sometimes that's kind of scary because, again, we have nothing to hide behind. So that's where imposter syndrome comes and takes a toll. And people who are genuine, I don't know if there's a word I can use to describe those type of people, but people who are genuine and people who come on this show, like all my guests, that's one of the things I really, really want about my guests. I want my guests to be authentic and genuine. And the person you see on social media is the person they are in real life. The person that they're, wherever they're on the gram or on TV, whatever they are, they're that same person. And so I really appreciate people who are real. I don't appreciate people who are perfect or claim to got it all together. I don't really rock with that people. So let me preface this conversation by saying yesterday I had this conversation with this girl, and the girl looked like Taylor Swift. I'm just straight up. She just looked like Taylor Swift. So I was like, I said, you look like Taylor Swift. And she was like, great, thanks. And she was all excited. I mean, she like to the point where I almost thought it was Taylor Swift for a quick second. I was like, that looked like, is that Taylor? Is that Taylor? But then I was like, she's not walking with an entourage. She's by herself in a Starbucks. I'm in Garden Grove. I'm pretty sure this ain't Taylor. So I just like walked up to her. I was like, man, I stared at you for like, and I walked up to her and I was like, man, I stared at you for like a few minutes. I thought you was Taylor Swift. And she says to me, thanks. That was what I was going for. I was, oh, you trying to look like Taylor Swift? She goes, I love her. I love her so much. And she goes, I'm a songwriter like her. And I was like, oh, great. That's awesome. And she said the one thing that turned me out completely, like, and I wasn't trying to hit on her, but it's just, you know how people just turn you off by saying something stupid. She says, I'm going to be a star and you're going to know my name. And she'll know who I am. She'll know me from an ant on the wall. So I just like, okay, well, good luck with that. And I can't stand, just probably because of the experience that I've had here at Heritage Park. When somebody comes and that's their first instinct to tell me that they're going to be a star, one, you're pretty much projecting the exact opposite. You're not going to be that guy. That's not you. You're not him or her. You're not going to be that person. And two, you're highly, highly high on your own supply, And she said it a second time as I was walking out the Starbucks. I went to go drink my little peppermint mocha because it's the holiday season at Starbucks. So I wanted something pepperminty. So I got myself a peppermint mocha. And I went outside to go to drink my mocha. And she says it to me again. She was like, all right, I'll see you later. I said, yeah. I said, good luck to you. And she goes, she goes, yeah, you're going to remember me. That's what she said. You're going to remember me. And I was like, okay. And I've had people come in for auditions for different roles of different projects with that same attitude. Like one guy actually said in the audition, I'm here because I'm going to be a celebrity. I'm going to be a star and you're going to remember me. And I actually liked, and I was a younger version of myself. So I actually liked that confidence. So I was like, oh, okay, cool. And he had a good run. And I was like, okay, cool. And I casted him in the role. And day one, he needed a ride home because he couldn't get home. Oh, he needed a ride there. So I gave him a ride. He needed a ride home. And then he stood us up for the next 3 days. And then he had the nerve to call me back like 2 years later when he saw that I was doing another project. And he was like, I want this role in your other project. This is made for me. This is my role. This is my tour de force. And I was like, okay, man. Like, sure, whatever. And it's always like when you see those overly confident people, you find that glaringly there's a discrepancy between the confidence in themselves and the confidence in their work. Like they don't really bring much to the table. They're not really that good. I kind of, when she said she's a songwriter and she was like, yeah, ask about me. I'm great. Immediately I wanted to be like, I kind of wanted to hear one of her songs because I didn't want to like poop on her songs, but I already kind of had this idea like, yo, okay, how dope can you possibly be to be that hype on yourself? Now, there's the opposite end of that, which is where you find me a lot, where there's songs that I really write that I'm like, that song is special, right? And then, for example, I recorded a couple of songs on the new project, which is still untitled, coming in the summertime of next year. Album's untitled, still don't have a name for this joint. But I had this song and I was like super pumped about it. Gonna release it as a single and a couple of songs, but one I was gonna release a single. And every time I listen to it, I go, ain't that great, bro. In my head, it's an amazing song. But I get I'm become my biggest critic. And so when I become my biggest critic, it's just not that good. It's just not good. It's not that good. And so I don't know how you can be so high on your own supply that you can't be critical of yourself. But at the other end, somebody may ask me this: the revert of that concept is, how can you be so critical of yourself that you don't think that you belong in the room? So I guess the middle ground, you should be somewhere in the middle ground a little bit. But I kind of would land on you being a little bit more humble than that. But everyone deserves you an authentic version of yourself, like everyone. And I had this thought today while I was in the gym. I was thinking about like hip hop today, like Christian hip hop, CHH in general, specifically. And it's been doing this thing, and I think right now is probably the best time for a CHH artist to really come up and captivate audiences and really do some great, unique things. I think the opportunity is there. But I remember having a conversation when I was first starting in the game, and I had a conversation with this businessman who was is because he's still around, is an extremely intelligent man, and he was like a father figure at the time to me. And we were talking about the CHH movement, and this was back in like early 2000s. And so we're having a conversation. He kept asking me this question that I couldn't understand because I was so young. But he kept asking the question, who is producing who? Like, are you producing the music because of the God in you, or are you producing the music because of the music you listen to producing it in you? Like, are you a part of the cycle that's making the music, or are you part of something else that's outside of that, you know? And I kept trying to say, well, I'm not being influenced by the world. And I started thinking about that now as I'm older. And there's like so many artists out there who are like, they're coming from these random parts of the country. Like, and I'm not saying they're not hood, but they're coming from parts of the country where they're not as hood people are. I'll even go venture out to say a lot of the artists in the secular world who claim that they're from the streets or from our hood aren't really as hood as we think they are. They're just playing a role. And you can see that a mile away, especially in secular music. Like, you can see that they don't live in that life. Like, bro, you're not that guy. That you're not him. But when it gets into the Christian realm, it gets kind of weird at that point, because it's like, you know, now you're not him, and you're showing reflections of the system that you're supposed to be counterproductive about. And I think that's where a lot of people miss up. When they can't be authentic, they become a replica of something else. Now, when you become a replica of something that's not authentic, and it becomes really, really consciously bad, and it becomes pivotal to growing something bigger than yourself. So it's like, I'm listening to a lot. Like, I listened to a record the other day from this kid who really wanted to do a distribution deal. And maybe I'm just being this way because I'm just kind of like grossed out by it at this point, being in the industry. But I'm like, bro, like I don't want to hear a white kid talk about Blicky. You know what I'm saying? I know it's an old term, but it's still prevalent today, because he was using terms like Blicky, and he was like studying ops. I'm like, dude, you don't have any ops. Like, you're from Scottsdale. You know what I'm saying? You're from, you know what I'm saying? You're from the IE. I know the IE got some hard places, but you're definitely not from Rialto, or you ain't from the Dino. You know what I'm saying? You're not from Anacrime, like the homie back there. You you know, you're from a place where you can walk home late at night and no one's gonna bother you. You know what I'm saying? You don't see a lot of street activity at 1 o'clock in the morning in Scottsdale. Like PD has made it very clear that you're not stumbling ops at 1 o'clock in Scottsdale. And it's kind of like, all right, and I'm listening to the music, and the quality is good. He put the effort into the quality. And but I knew it wasn't him, right? I knew it wasn't him. And I was like, yo, man, you're using terms and rhetoric because it's cool to use. And he was like, yeah. And this is my life. I said, your life? Like, um, I got a Bible. I don't need a blicky on my seat because I don't know, whatever he's saying. He's spinning the block. I'm like, you're spinning the block in Scottsdale? And he goes, yeah, spiritually. I'm like, okay, all right. But I said, is there other stuff going on in your life that you can, possibly share with people that's more than, taking the terms that are popularized? This is not new. This is not new beef that I've had. I've been having this for a long time. Like, I hate it when Christian artists do the skr in their music. I'm like, why? Or you could tell when they use certain lines in their music that they're just copying their favorite secular rabbit, their favorite secular rapper, like Savage. The term savage, it's an older term, but when I hear Christian artists use the term in their rhyme schemes, I feel like they're copying something. And to be honest with you, I feel hip hop in itself has been a copycat type music. Like, there's only like few artists that are like at the main frame of like you're doing something, and then everyone else is like a copied version of that. And so, and it's nerve wracking, right? To be an original, it's nerve wracking to say, I'm going to put myself out there, and we're going to see what happens. I'm not really excited about this. I'm actually have some anxiety about it, but I would like to see what God would do with just me. And I want to see that for people, right? I want to see that for you. I want to see that for me. There's just moments where I'm like, this is very hard to go through. Maybe it's not just music and artistry. Maybe it's just in your life in general. Maybe you're in a relationship where you're trying to find love, and you're just like, you know what? I feel like I need to be my authentic self. So this person that I really have feelings for gets to see who I really am under real light, or get to see who I really am. And so, yeah, it's nerve-wracking to be authentic. It's nerve-wracking to be like, listen, I'm not all that other stuff. This is just me. It's just me. Like, it's scary, but you gotta do it, man. If you're that, you'll find a level of peace in your life that no one can take away from you. You can find, if you could pull away from the norm of you have to be this kind of person, or you have to be this kind of an artist, or this type of a minister, or this type of if you could get away from that, I think authenticity is like your secret weapon, right? Transparency is too. Transparency and authenticity, they're like your secret weapons. They get you through a lot. Relationships, dealing with your career. Some people just need to have a level, some moments of, I have like that. I have these moments of clarity. And in those moments of clarity, I go, all right, this is how I feel about blah, blah, blah. I hate my current reality where it is. I hate being scared. Like, this is me being authentic right now. I hate being scared. I really do. What scares me? Being inadequate scares me. to be honest with you. I get fearful when I think that no one's thinking of me. Scares me. So being forgotten is a fear. Being not enough is another fear of mine. Um, being in debt freaks me out, right? Um, I think I'm more afraid of being poor than in debt, because just the idea of just being poor just kind of like drives me crazy. Notice poor and broke are two different things. Like, I've been a rich man, I've been a broke man. What you'll never find me as is a poor man. That's why I strive not to be. Like, broke doesn't mean anything to me. It just means I don't have money today, right? That could change tomorrow, and most of the time it does. It changes the next day. So broke and poor are two different things. So being poor freaks me out. The idea that I could possibly be poor, I don't like that feeling. So I do have fears, and these are where my fears kind of lay, and these are where my fears kind of lie. So I try to so I spend a lot of time dealing with that instead of trying to in a very unhealthy way, try to mask the fear or try to do things to combat that fear. I have a when that happens, then you're getting in an unauthentic version of me, which is never good, right? I'm trying to entertain so I'm not forgotten. I'm trying to be the life of the party, and I've been guilty of this many times. I've noticed that when I'm trying to be that person, I could be very mean with my words just to get a rise out of everyone else in the room, right? Because I want to be liked. So I do that a lot. I insult people who are very close to me because I'm trying not to be irreverent. I'm trying not to be irrelevant. So I'm rude to people I shouldn't have to be rude to. I take jabs at people very easily, because this is how you know, if you're around me, this is how you know I'm not being authentic, right? I make jokes out of my insecurities. I make jokes out of other people's insecurities. Those are signs that I'm not being authentic. Another sign is you ever go to a Ramon concert, and I do this for fun, so don't call me on it if I do it once or twice in a show. But if I do a bunch of songs that everyone knows that aren't mine, I'm not being authentic. That means during that moment, I don't think the songs that I write are good enough. So therefore I'm doing, like, for example, on any given show, depending on the time frame of the show and the crowd, I'll do like Arrested Development's Tennessee, because it, for the generation who are there, they rock with it. Or I'll do Slick Rick Children's Story just in the middle of a set, because a lot of people who come to my shows or who I open for somebody else, they don't know me as an artist. So I win them over by doing songs that we all kind of sing along to. There's a handful of songs that are safe that I do on the stage. So people are like, oh yeah, I know that one. And they sing along with me. And then I introduce a song, one of my songs. If you find me doing too many of those, then I'm not being authentic. And I invite like friends to call me out when I'm not being that guy, when I'm not being authentic or the top version of myself. And I'll tell you what, man, my biggest battle is I battle myself. Sometimes you got to take for account that this is what I've learned in the last couple of weeks. This is my newest lesson that I've taught myself, that the enemy loves lying to us, but truthfully, he only has to lie to us a very minute amount of times. Like, this is something I've been saying to people a lot. Like, the enemy only lies to me like once or twice, right? And then it's inception. It's like inception. He gets the lie in my head as if I had this thought. And then all he has to do is just say the lie and deceive me to think that the lie is real. And I will embrace it and make it my own. Here's another example. I learned a couple weeks ago that I'm not bad at marketing. I'm not bad at marketing. But if you even look at Epic Thoughts from years past and conversations that I've had years past, you'll hear me say on this platform and many other platforms, I suck at marketing. I'm the worst at marketing. And I've always been that. That's always been a statement I would say. And so I was so dismissive. So I would have all these projects and had no marketing plan because I was bad at marketing. That's what I told myself. And then you'll always, I don't know why we do this. Psychologically, we always show up for other people more than we show up for ourselves, which is so weird, but we do that. So earlier this year, I mean, like at the beginning, January, Kevin's new album was coming out. And I literally was writing, I was like, how can I make Kevin's album release probably one of the greatest releases that we've ever done? So I'm writing down like ideas and goals and stuff like that. And then I had this plan. I put together this 24-day plan. And in the 24-day plan, we was giving away t-shirts for pre-orders, and the t-shirts were individualized. And then we had a record release party, and that was going to be on day 30 something. And then we're going to release 21 days. We're going to release this campaign. And in the 21 days, if you show like a proof of pre-sale, then we're going to send you an authentic, completely whatever your name is t-shirt. So mine said completely Ramon. So if your name was, Henry, I was about to say some weird name. If your name was Henry, then you could be completely Henry. And so we would do it, and they would send it. They would send their picture of their pre-sale on there, their screenshot of the pre-sale. So then we would send them their t-shirt, and they wanted them to wear the t-shirt at the concert because the name of the album was Completely Kevin. And that was the whole concept of being authentically yourself. That was the theme of the whole project. So put together this marketing plan. Okay. No marketer on the team. I'm putting the plan together because it needed to happen. I put the game plan together, and his album released number 3 on the Christian charts on iTunes. He charted. First Heritage Park artist to chart. And it was the first Heritage Park artist, though, that had a marketing campaign, a marketing plan. And I literally sat there and I was like, okay. And still, even after that, made residual income off of that for the half a year, was doing really well on that. And then still, you'll hear me say the same thing. Well, I'm not marketing. I'm not in marketing. I need to go to class. I need to go to class for marketing. And then finally a couple of weeks ago, I was like, am I believing a lie that was told to me? Because there's other elements in my life where I realize I market that sucker. That's why people showed up to your Quarterama, because you marketed it. People didn't show up to it because you didn't market it, because you told yourself you weren't a marketer. But then there's times where you're like, I had to do something, so I marketed it, and people showed up to that joint. So then I was like, wait a minute. I am a good marketer. I can do this. That's what it was. It was this last Quarterama we just did for Hope Recovery. I was like, I am a good marketer. I can market this. And so I started writing down almost the same thing as with Kevin. I was like, okay, what can I do? I have this many days away. How can I revisit this and make this? And I'm writing down all these plans. And I realized while I'm working it, I am a marketer. Like, the enemy lied to me. And again, why would he lie to me? Because I don't think I don't think myself highly of anybody. But at the same time, it's like, yo, you have purpose in your life, right? And the enemy can't shut down what God already started. But if he can get you to believe in the lie that you're not good enough, or you're not smart in this area, how are you going to be this kind of a person? How can you be a business owner and you're bad with money? Are you bad with money? Or did you just believe the lie that you are? Right? Are you bad at relationships, or did you believe a lie? And sometimes the lie comes in like an inception. It comes in and we act like we created the thought. Those are the hardest to break because we think that we came up with it, right? I thought that I came up with the concept that I can't market. They come to find out I can market fine. I can make something happen. Like, if anybody outside of doing something extremely intrinsic or complicated, like creating a symphony, like if you want to be good at relationships, you can be good at relationships. You can be good at money. There's so many ways to learn how money works. There's so many ways to learn how marketing works, or running a business, or being in a relationship, or being a parent. Like, I thought that I was going to be the worst parent. I thought I was going to be a horrible, horrible parent. And I beat up on myself because there's times I feel like I could be a better parent. But for the most part, I'm a pretty damn good parent. Like, I'm not best, but I'm not. I'm not absent, right? That's the first game plan, to show up. So I say all that to say, we have to learn to be more authentic. We have to learn to be more authentic, and be ourselves, and be you. And that doesn't, but not have takeaways. Don't have a takeaway that takes you away from being yourself, right? You can be a great singer. Well, I don't know about that. Singer, we might have to draw the line at. So I'm back to this rapper. So I want, like, I'm really talking to these kids about music. Like, I got a call yesterday from another artist who was like, I don't want to be signed with Heritage Park, but I really want to hear from you on what worked, what didn't work, and all this other stuff. And I was like, great, send me your tracks. And he sent me his track, and everything was blicky. And I think he even said the N-word. He's a white boy from Miami. And I called him up. I was like, yo, why are you saying this stuff? He literally says, because I can. I was like, you can't. Like, you're 16 and you're in Miami. And you're not even in the gangster part of Miami. You live in a very affluent neighborhood. Like, you got wealth. But and then he literally says, people won't respect me as a rapper. I was like, we need to get away from this. I have some very small, like, these little foxes, these little problems I have with CHH right now. So I'm not really going to make this podcast about that, because there's some things that they're doing that there's things that just bother me. But there's so many fans. There's so many people who love hip hop that are not into the hardcore street, like running the streets with your blicky on, running from ops, spinning the block. Like, we're tired of it. And not everybody wants to hear that, right? We want to hear what you have to say. Every rapper doesn't have to be a battle rapper, especially if there's 10,000 of these guys releasing an album every week. We don't need a new one. You're gonna get lost in the crowd. And marketing makes a difference to kind of show, like, what brings you different, what makes you different. So at the same time, it's like, bro, we don't need this. We got enough of this. We have enough of this. Talk about your life now. Now, listen, and this is not something I wouldn't tell him to his face. I did tell him this last night. I said, listen, I'm a grown man. Okay. What I listen to is what I listen to, and it's my business what I listen to. But I wouldn't listen to a 15-year-old tell me about how hard their life is. And I told him that. So I wouldn't listen to it. Even if I'm definitely not listening to it, and you're a white boy talking about you spinning the block, niggas and fighting the ops. But I love Jesus. That doesn't appeal to me as a grown person. There's nothing in that sentence that makes me go, that's hard. And it bugs me too when I see people older than me arguing about rap like that. Like, man, he's trying to be street. You gotta be more street. I'm like, bro, there's a point. We are more civilized now, I feel like, as a culture than ever before. So if you in your 40s and 50s and you still getting the street fights at the bar, bro, you need to stop. Like, okay. There's more to listen to, like, more than the gangster stuff that's out there. There's more to the industry, there's more substance. And I was telling this kid, I was like, you got substance, have you been in love? I feel like we don't talk about, even in CHH, we don't talk about real things. Like, you've been in love? He's like, yeah, I've been in love. You've been broke up with? Yes. Talk about that, man. If you're felt inadequate with God, he goes, all day. I was like, why don't we rap about that? And he goes, because people would think he said something like, people would think he's soft or something like that. And I'm like, yo, man, who cares what they think? Like, that makes good music when you're real, right? So I think that's why my album's taking so long, because I'm really trying to be real and authentic and not give you a fake version of me, because you've had that version. You know what I'm saying? Like, when people make multiple albums, by the time they get to their third or fourth album, we kind of want to hear something new. You know, there's an artist that released an album a couple years ago, and you know, people love him. He's a cool rapper. Like, he's a big name. I'm not gonna say his name, but he's a big name. I love him, right? But I'm just like, yo, you're depressed for 7 albums. Like, you've been, I don't know 7, but you've been depressed for several albums now, dog. Like, is there any joy in your life? Is there any hope? Like, and you've been talking about, and I get it. Some people have a hard time getting over stuff, but he's talking about the struggles that he had being raised by his mother for like 6 albums. And now you're just like, okay, but are you not over this? Like, I want to hear something new. I want to hear something unique. Maybe I'm just being complacent. Maybe I'm being the one that's complaining, or maybe I'm the one that needs to bring a difference to the world. But I think that what we're lacking is authenticity. And then there's the opposite. The opposite is you're just being comedic for comedic purposes, and you're not being real as well, right? And it's okay to have one song you talk about how hard street life is, I guess, in Scottsdale. Or, you know, maybe you have one song where you talk about for an hour, or for one song, like how fat you are. We'll laugh. But eventually you're going to get some heavier themes, and you're going to have to tell us what it is that's going on in your heart. Because I think for artists to artists, people care about what's going on in here. Like, this is where people care about. All that other stuff kind of really doesn't really matter. If you're not going to be real, then you're not going to be effective. And people rock with people that they see the authenticity. I can never say that word. When they can see you being authentic, they can rock with you. When they see you being real, they can rock with you. When they see you being fake, they can't fool with you. They'll fool with you and have fun with you for a minute, but they're not going to be investing into you. And this is just in everyday life too, right? Like, some of you have been so jaded in life, you just walk around with a chip on your shoulder. Like, bro, it's 2023. You got to go to counseling, and you got to work some stuff out, man. Go to counseling, go talk to somebody, work some stuff out. You can't have a chip on your shoulder for the rest of your life. Some of you are still angry about a relationship that failed like 15 years ago. Yo, man, let it go. Like, I understand it's painful. I have pains too that are old, but that's why I go to counseling. You need to too, right? Because you can't be stuck in the same place for 15 years, man. You can't. And there's people who they'll try everything. They'll try everything in their plate. They'll try a different relationship, or they'll move to another city, or they'll leave this state and go to this other state, or they'll leave this church and go to another church. And then you'll come to find out they're still not happy because they haven't even been able to be real with themselves. Right? They haven't even been real with themselves. And if you're not real with yourself, what version of you is coming to God? Right? What version of you is speaking to God when you're not being real? What version is showing up? Like, you have to ask those questions. You have to ask yourself, if this is, I've heard people say, this is not me, this is not who I am. So the relationships you have are false then? Like, that's why people are afraid to be themselves, because they're like, I'm not sure if people will love me if they saw who I really was. And I feel like it's probably better that you're that person and lose people than lose yourself and be a fake version of yourself and keep all these friends. The scripture says, what good is it if you gain the whole world but then lose your soul? Actually, I'm gonna look it up right now. But there's another one I want to read. Out of scripture. I'm trying to find it, and then we'll get out of here. Here it is. This is Philippians chapter 2. Let me pull it up real quick. My app is moving very slow today. Philippians chapter 2. We're gonna read, this is King James, so let's read Amplified. Actually, let's read New Living. Is there any encouragement from belonging to Christ? Any comfort from his love? Any fellowship together in the spirit? Are you hearts tender and compassionate? Then make me truly happy by agreeing wholeheartedly with each other, loving one another, and working together with one mind and purpose. Don't be selfish. Don't try to impress others. Be humble. Thinking of others is better than yourselves. Don't look out only for your own interest, but take an interest in others too. You must have the same attitude that Christ Jesus had. Though he was God, he did not think of equality with God as something to cling to. Instead, he gave up his divine privileges. He took the humble position of a slave and was born as a human being when he appeared in human form. He humbled himself in obedience to God and died on a criminal's death on the cross. Therefore, God elevated him to place of highest honor and gave him the name above all other names, that at the name of Jesus every knee shall bow in heaven and on earth and under the earth, and every tongue declare that Jesus Christ is Lord, to the glory of God the Father. Yo, you gotta be willing to put the pride, because all that is, when you're playing a character that's not you, you're just being prideful. Even listen, this is me personally. I personally believe this. Even when you're over humiliating yourself, and that's wrong word. When you're trying to be humble and you're overly humble, I feel like that's a version of pride too. Right? You're like, because then you then respond to saying, well, I'm humble, so God can make me great. You're being very prideful in that matter too. Right? You should just not think of yourself higher than you should. And be thankful. Somebody pastor said something incredible yesterday. I saw it on the Instagram reel, and he said, some people just need to be grateful that God uncovered your eyes to what the true value of grace is. Like, and that hit me, because I'm like, I believe personally that there's a lot of people who go to church that have no freedoms. They still ain't got freedoms. They've been going to church for 20 years. They ain't got no freedoms. But when Jesus decides to unveil your eyes to the power of the gospel of grace, it changes everything. And I was like, man, I should be more thankful that I was chosen, that God revealed himself through grace, because there's people who've been going to church who's struggling and all kind of other stuff going on. So there's other things to be thankful for, and we put more pressure on and weight on, and think about how Jesus, he had all the privileges of being God, he submitted himself to be a human. And even then, he wouldn't allow people to call him good. He wouldn't allow people to raise him up. He wouldn't allow people to do all that stuff. And he was God. He was God. And he was like, why you call me good? There's no one good but the Father. Only God's good. Jesus is good. No. And he would tell you, I'm not good. So even Jesus, when he was walking on the earth, he was humble to the point of, he wasn't putting himself to the level where no one else could rise up, and he wasn't putting himself at the bottom where no one's beneath him. He knew who he was, and he knew his purpose. But at the same time, when you're authentic and you know who you are, you treat people with respect, you treat people with love, you treat people with kindness. You know why you're here. You know why you're not here. You find yourself in better situations. You find yourself not in relationships that you don't want to be a part of. You find yourself not doing things you don't want to do, because you become authentic and you become a stronger version of yourself. Where's this other scripture at? I can't remember it. What was I saying? This is Mark 8:36. This is Mark 8:36. Let's go to it. Ooh, my stomach is growling. Dang. Did Jesus begin to tell them that the Son of Man must suffer many terrible things and be rejected by the elders, the leading priests, and the teachers of religious law. This is what he's telling them that has to happen to him. He will be killed, but 3 days later he will rise from the dead. As he talked about this openly with his disciple, Peter took him aside and began to reprimand him for saying such things. Jesus turned around and looked at his disciples, then reprimanded Peter. Get away from me, Satan. You are seeing things merely from a human's point of view, not from God's. Then calling the crowd to join his disciples, he said, if any of you wants to be my follower, you must give up your own way, take up your cross and follow me. If you try to hang on to your life, you will lose it. But if you give up your life for my sake and for the sake of the good news, you will save it. And what do you benefit if you gain the whole world but lose your own soul? So in context, he's not talking about riches and all that stuff. He's talking about if you gain the notoriety, if you gain fame, if you gain all this stuff, especially if you do it and you do it with vain conceit and selfish ambition, what do you get out of that? So then he says, and then do you benefit if you gain the whole world but lose your soul? Is anything worth more than your soul? That's why healthy boundaries in your relationships are important. You know, if anyone is ashamed of me and my message in their adulterous and sinful ways, the Son of Man will be ashamed of that person when he returns to the glory of his Father with the holy angels. Shame is hiding who you are. Shame is like there's freedom when you with your brothers and your sisters and your friends and you say, yo, this is where I'm battling right now. The enemy can't operate when it's exposure, right? I have friends that know everything about me, like everything. And I hold a lot of things in, but I have some stuff that I have friends that I'm able to share the worst part of my life. And we giggle for a moment about it because it was like only Ramon. And then we talk about it. Then they help me kind of pray it through and stuff like that. But there's not a lot of shame going. When you living in shame, you're going to hide stuff. You're going to hide who you really are. So then the scripture is very clear when it talks about if anyone's ashamed, you shouldn't be. Be yourself, man. There's people who and I've heard some people talk about some stuff that they're ashamed of. And I'm just like, you shouldn't be ashamed of that. There's some things you just shouldn't be ashamed of. You shouldn't be ashamed of who you are, right? If you're made differently, you're made differently. But you just got to be able to live authentic, live your life out loud. Don't let people dissuade you for how you should live your life, right? With that being said, though, sometimes we're masking a pain. And we're like, this is who I am. So, well, I'm going to say this and then we'll be out of here. Yeah, I had a friend that used to be so mean to people. She was just mean. And she was like, this is just who I am. And she'd be mean. And there's a difference between being honest with people and then mean. And she would call it honesty. And one day we were having a conversation. She was like, I'm just being honest. I said, no, you're being hurtfully mean. You're just mean. And she was like, it's not my fault that they can't take it like that. And I'm like, the fact that you're blaming them on how they received you is the number one sign that you're mean. Right. And I was like, where did you grow up? Like, who was your mama? Like, and then found out mama was very critical of everybody. So now she's critical of everybody. That's like, this is me. I said, well, yeah, you're wounded. You should go to counseling. You should probably work that thing out. And I don't know if she's much better now because I'm grown now. So it doesn't bother me as much as it did when I was like 20. And I keep people at a distance. So if I'm staying away from somebody, there's a reason for it. So I kind of made my distance from this person who still considers me like a close friend. When they see me, like, that's my boy. But then I hear other people talk like, man, she's so mean. I said, yeah, because she's mean. But yeah, man, you gotta be authentic, bro. You gotta be authentic. HeritageParkProd.com. That's the website. Get all the information you need to know on there. Merry Christmas. Oh, listen, we have till this Friday on Heritage Park on our store. The Black Friday sale is going on right now. And if I had planned this before, I show you for those of you who are diehard fans, we have a sweater that says, now I have a machine gun. Ho, ho, ho. That's my favorite. That's my favorite piece. in our Christmas collection for this year, you got to get it. It's amazing. But right now, the whole store is 20% off for Black Friday, and the sale ends December 1st. So make sure you get your stuff together. 20% off everything. And you can get a jump on some clothes for yourself and some gifts from other people. But go to heritageparkprod.com and click the link to go to the store. Also, the link to give to GBI and the Efficient is also going to be on the website. And there's going to be a link below in the if you're watching this from the app, it'll be also in the link. So in the link below, there's going to be the description, there's going to be a link to where you can give to the Efficient. And I hope you had a wonderful Thanksgiving. I hope everybody's blessed. I hope everybody's healthy. And I pray that you just have a great week. And next week, we'll talk to you next week. We got my homie, Charlie Battaglia will be in the building. So I'm excited about that. It's always fun when he's there. He's here. So God bless you guys. We'll talk to you soon. Peace. Take care.